be turning much brighter across the southeast towards lunchtime as well, once that rain does clear away. So certainly a brighter day to come tomorrow, and it will feel fairly warm in the sunshine as well. However, across the far north, that's where we've got a bit of a breeze and this risk of showers through the day. So here, still that fresher feel, temperatures in the mid-teens, but further south, we're towards the mid-20s, so not feeling too bad, especially where the winds remain light. Another change on the way as we head into the weekend. Another band of rain arrives across parts of England and Wales, bringing outbreaks.
We could be calling you with the news that you've won our latest Great British giveaway. An incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. David from Kent was our last big winner. Listen to what he had to say about getting that winning call.
Hi, I'm David from Kent and I won £15,000 and it couldn't have come at a better time. I was gobsmacked. What have you got to lose for what it costs? In fact, I've done it again this week, so I'd recommend it to anybody.
For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
We're joined now by GB News national reporter Charlie Peters, who is outside Buckingham Palace for us.
Well, let's start with the expenditure, shall we? From the last year, it was £89.1 million. That's what the royal household spent. And one of the core parts of that expenditure was, of course, their big event last May, the coronation. £800,000 went into that. And then we should look at the engagements. You mentioned the number that King Charles made last year. Well, £4.2 million on those engagements, much of that travel. And then finally, how much that costs us all? Well, it's £1.29 per person. That's the cost of the monarchy to the taxpayer. But that really hides the truth of how that cash comes about, because all of the money that the royal household spends is actually theirs being given back to them by the Treasury. It comes from the Crown Estate surplus. That's a £16 billion portfolio they have, and their sovereign grant is made up of the surplus from 2 years prior. So in the year to 2022, there was about £350 million knocking around from the surplus. That was given all to the Treasury, and they were given back 15% as their core sovereign grant. Additional 10% was given towards the resurfacing of Buckingham Palace. That's been going on since Parliament voted on it in 2017. It's expected to take 10 years. But all in all, that's been about £86.3 million. And as you heard, the expenditure was £89 million. So how do they mix that gap? How do they close that gap in and cost out? Well, they make their own money as well from additional sources of income. And that was the gates, the receipts to Windsor Castle and their many palaces across the country, where people have paid about £10 million to visit in the last year.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It's just exactly 11 o'clock. I'm Cameron Walker in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has told an emergency Cobra meeting tonight that police need to remain on high alert. Sir Keir Starmer thanks the police and wider criminal justice system at his third Cobra meeting since violent tonight that... I do apologise. He also said that there was no doubt that levels of policing in the right places and swift justice over the past week, including sentences, have acted as a deterrent to the disorder. Former President Trump has agreed to debate Vice President Harris on television in a race to the White House. It's been confirmed the Republican nominee will debate Democratic rival Kamala Harris on the 10th of September on ABC, but Trump told a news conference at his Florida home this evening he wants to add 2 more debates on Fox and NBC. The US presidential hopeful also warned of dark times ahead.
A lot of bad things coming up. You could end up in a depression of the 1929 variety, which would be a devastating thing. Took many years, took decades to recover from it. And we're very close to that, and we're very close to a world war. In my opinion, we're very close to a world war. We have people that don't know how to handle it. They're not respected. All over the world, they're laughed at.
The final child injured in Southport stabbings has been discharged from hospital and will continue her recovery at home, according to Merseyside Police. 3 young girls died after a mass stabbing at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in the seaside town last week. The family of the injured victim discharged today expressed gratitude to the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital for its support and care during what they called this challenging time. Police forces across the country have issued further CCTV appeals to identify people in connection with the widespread disorder over the past week. Detectives investigating disorder in Merseyside issued images of 11 people earlier today after a separate appeal helped identify individuals yesterday. Greater Manchester Police has issued a very similar appeal for information. They're asking the public to contact them directly or Crime Stoppers anonymously if they recognise any of the people pictured. Former glamour model Katie Price has been arrested at Heathrow Airport tonight for failing to attend court and has been remanded in custody to appear before a judge tomorrow. The Metropolitan Police has told GBNews a 46-year-old woman from Surrey was arrested at Heathrow Airport at 7:45 this evening. An arrest warrant was issued for Price last month after she failed to attend a court hearing related to her bankruptcies. And finally, Great Britain's Ellie Aldridge has become the first ever Olympic gold medalist in kite surfing at today's event in Marseille. The discipline, which sees competitors fly above the water at up to 40 knots, powered by huge kites, is making its Games debut this week. 27-year-old Aldridge from Dorset powered her way to gold by winning both races in the final series today. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Cameron Walker. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
And welcome to Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's top news stories with me, Andrew Doyle, and 2 rather wonderful comedians, Cressida Far Right Wetton and Josh I'm Always Right Howie. How are you both? Fun time at the riots?
Yeah. Just
He actually has been to the ones in Liverpool, haven't you?
Well, I got locked into a board game shop with my son.
Did you really?
Yeah, they were like, we're closing the shop because they were afraid that the riots were just coming down the road. And then so we had to have an extra Lion bar.
Is that right?
That's my riot story.
What a scary
Pretty crazy.
story. Well, I once got trapped in a Pizza Express at a Pride parade, which turned nasty because members of the far right turned up and it all kicked off. But that was back in the day when Pride was interesting.
Look at us with our crazy riot stories.
I didn't know you 2 at all.
No, you've no idea. There's a lot you don't know about me, Cressida Wetton. We will discuss later. Anyway, we're going to have a look at those front pages. The Telegraph is running with Khan, I'm no longer safe as a Muslim. The Daily Mail has riot thugs jailed and shamed on TV as courts get tough. The Eye has Reeves to order ministers to make major savings amid defence cuts, and the Daily Express is running with Labour man held over call to cut rioters' throats. The Guardian has laws to stop fake news are not fit for purpose, says London Mayor. And the Daily Star has some bizarre story about a hairy wolf man. Those were your front pages. OK, so we're going to kick off with the front cover of Friday's Daily Mail. Cressida Wetton has the details.
Riot thugs jailed and shamed on TV as courts get tough. So we've now got a total of 32 years handed to 17 people who've been involved in the riots.
Right. Now, I'm not good at maths, but that's quite a lot.
It is. It's
over a year each.
Yes, I mean, obviously they won't serve all of it because I'm sure you've heard the prisons are full.
They are full, yes.
But anyway...
Not anymore. They've kicked them all out.
Well,
get these rioters in.
There's going to be a temporary change of prisoners, something like that.
Right. Okay.
So the big deal is that some of these courts, it was televised, and we don't do that. That's very, very rare. You might do it for a murder. So Keir's really getting into sort of...
Wow.
I'm going to say Orwellian a lot tonight.
Well, that's Judge Judy territory right there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's now entertainment as well.
But, you know, if you break the law, smash stuff up, expect to go to prison. That's the way I see it.
Well, yes.
Yeah, but we have a sort of Game of Thrones thing they've implemented now where people have to walk through the streets with bells. Shame! Shame. This is the new thing, and then they're going to have, like, excrement thrown at them.
Not such a bad idea.
This is, and also it would save on the prison time. If you can just make it back to your house...
Yes.
we're just floating ideas. We're spitballing.
I don't think we have a concept of shame in this country anymore. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, they'll probably go on Big Brother.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. We could have a shame festival instead of a pride, or both.
Yeah, so it's interesting to find out the lives of some of these far-right rioters.
Yes.
Of course, some of them were far-right rioters. Two of them, the first ones I saw about, though, were two gay gentlemen. They were out playing bingo during the day, and then it seems like they kind of got caught up in the altercation and got a bit excited.
Are you making this up, John?
No, the two...
On the way home from bingo, they got caught up in it, and they've now got prison sentences.
Well, I think there was definitely a far-right contingent there, but I think a lot of the people there weren't far-right. In fact, I'd point out that a lot of them were probably far-left.
And lots of bingo players.
And lots of bingo players as well, who are notoriously Marxist,
Danger of daytime bingo.
Yeah,
that's part of it. And there was some brothers who looted a burnt-out library.
Yes.
And I've got to say, that's probably the worst place to loot.
Yes.
Is a burnt-out library. I don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, but as with all of these things, whenever these things kick
burnt-out
off...
books?
Well, that's it. It kicks off and they end up like... You know, what starts with a Black Lives Matter protest ends up with people stealing... shoes.
Yeah, but I can understand shoes. But a burnt-out library, that just makes... It's like, what, is it like Alexandra, Dazi, and they're hoping these manuscripts will be worth a lot in a couple of thousand years' time? Right. It doesn't make sense to me. Of all the things to loot...
I wouldn't think there would be any manuscripts left. It's a library. It's full of paper.
There might be some half...
OK, charred copies.
But Cressida, you're happy enough with people going to prison for destroying public property, surely?
I am happy enough for criminals to go to prison, Andrew. Yes. But what doesn't seem to get mentioned, and we'll come back to this a lot tonight, is the legitimate concerns of some people who weren't the 17 that have gone to prison.
Yeah, so there's a thing here, isn't there? There's people who behave illegitimately and criminally, and they should face the full brunt of the law.
Full force of the law. We keep hearing that.
You know, as the phrase goes. But then you've also got people who do have legitimate concerns and the risk is that those legitimate concerns will get overlooked because they'll be conflated with the people who break the law, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the worry here.
And those legitimate concerns are not going anywhere.
No, of course they're not.
And there's a variety of things that are getting blamed, from drugs to the Russians and all this.
Bingo.
No bingo. What's not being discussed is the legitimate concerns, not that they justify violence.
No. You're obsessed with this bingo idea.
I don't know,
Is there an element of Islamophobia because it's Mecca bingo?
Oh, hello. Someone's got some jokes this evening.
Well, I'm actually just pondering. Anyway, let's move on to the front cover of The Express. Josh, what's going on there?
Labour man held over call to cut rioters' throats. Now, he's been arrested. He's since been charged, so that limits what we can talk about. But there's a few interesting things I think we can talk about this. The first thing is, this is a clip that went out on social media this morning. This was from, I believe, Walthamstow last night. And it turned out the man was a Labour councillor. He was suspended. He's since been suspended by Labour.
Yes.
The questions, one is, if this hadn't been for social media, I don't think this arrest would have happened.
No, we wouldn't know about it.
We wouldn't know about it. And the other thing that I think is interesting is this evidence of not two-tier policing? Is it that the police felt like they had to step in to prove that they weren't hypocrites?
Well, it was a pretty extreme example. And in the clip, he's standing with all these people who look a little bit surprised but still go on to cheer when he says...
I mean, what troubles me about that sort of stuff more than anything is the cheering, is when people sort of clap along. There was a woman there for Amnesty International.
It was almost comic, wasn't it? The PR for Amnesty. I mean, I know they've somewhat strayed from the values they might have had decades ago. But
Amnesty definitely...
Even so...
Even if you only know a little bit about Amnesty, you know they're against the death penalty and they're against violence, or at least they should be. I mean, it might be the case that maybe... who knows? We shouldn't comment on it.
But then he's leading a chant for free Palestine, and that seemed to have excited everybody conflation tool. Of course, I can't really figure out what freeing Palestine has to do with riots in the UK.
There is a broader point here, though, as you say. This wouldn't have come about if it weren't for the footage being shared on X. A lot of commentators talking about how we need Twitter to be taken down, Musk needs to go, and we need more online censorship. But, you know, to be fair to Musk, you know, his community notes have been fantastic. I mean, they picked up... The Guardian put out an article which was completely full of misinformation. The community notes yesterday completely nailed it. You know, who's going to deal with the misinformation if it's not for people on social media pointing out where the media get it wrong?
Absolutely.
100%. That's why I think we need Elon. And good luck to Starmer trying to have an argument online with Elon Musk.
I
think I know which one.
What I will say is 100% is this clip would not have gone out on BBC or Sky or anywhere else unless it'd been called attention to.
No. OK. Well, let's move on now. We've got this one. This is the Telegraph. You got this one, Chris?
Khan, I'm no longer safe as a Muslim. So Sadiq Khan is feeling bad for himself and for his family. Mayor of London triggered by violence as police warn more disorder at weekend. So it's another call for safety, which is, I mean...
Well, what's he actually calling for?
Well, what's he actually calling for?
I mean, he's saying that he's not feeling safe because there have been... There was some attacks on a mosque. There have been people saying openly unpleasant things about Muslims.
Yes.
Of course, the Jewish community has had this kind of thing for quite some time and people haven't really done
Absolutely.
But my point would be no one should have to deal with that. But on the other hand, I worry that all of this stuff becomes a pretense for censorship.
Well,
really.
yeah, and it's difficult to argue that. I mean, I saw Nigel Farage talking in the last 24 hours about his need for more security under the circumstances.
Yes.
So it's not like it's just one side. You know, this is why a high-trust, low-crime society is brilliant, because we're all safer, you know.
I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why people might feel unsafe about the way that things are reported, the way that things, you know... I mean, you could say that gay people felt quite unsafe when those gay men were stabbed to death and no one would say who the perpetrators were, you know, for fear of causing unrest in certain communities. Well, you know, we can all play this game.
You can also say that in certain areas, like, for example, in Birmingham, where a group of Muslim men met with machetes, the white people or non-Muslims might have felt unsafe. One of them, a white man, was beaten up and his liver lacerated outside of a pub.
Yes.
So that community could feel unsafe.
Yes. And then you had that awful video of the police officer sort of saying, yeah, well, we met with community leaders and we decided not to arrest people with machetes.
Yeah.
He didn't quite say that, but you know what I mean. It's like this. It's all a big mess, isn't it? Just I go back to this point. Apply the law equally to everyone, whoever they are, and problem is solved. I would have thought, right?
Yeah, but maybe also get a time machine and do it way back.
Yeah,
you know.
do it before Rotherham. And
yeah,
that
maybe
kind of thing,
decades ago. I don't know.
Maybe like 2 years ago, when a group of men drove down to London from Luton and screamed that they were going to rape Jewish daughters.
Yeah,
and then they were not charged. And they had all the evidence and whatever, and the Jewish community is still trying to find out the reason for the CPS making that decision. I think it was disgusting.
Unbelievable. OK, well, we're going to move on now.
That triggered me, by the way, Mr. Khan. Not that he had anything to do with it, I'm just saying...
Well, if he's
We've
triggered...
all been triggered.
But everyone's been triggered, exactly.
With lots of triggering going on.
OK, well, let's move on to the cover of the Daily Star. And, Josh, I'm not even going to begin to pretend that I understand what's going on here.
OK, well, that's because you have no body hair. Shame of the hairy wolfmen. I don't know if that's... I mean,
who are they talking about?
They're talking about men like me.
Oh, I thought they were talking about a particular...
No, like men... Well, a certain
Gentleman.
particular man, a lazy man like myself who has lots of body hair. And
hirsute man.
Hirsute man, but also not ready for the beach. So I'm going on holiday in a week and a half. Am I going to take my T-shirt off the beach? I'm a little bit overweight at the moment. I haven't timed my diet very well.
Wait, so this is just body shaming?
It's body shaming
it's
for
hairy
men.
body
For disgusting men like myself.
The thing is, there's nothing unhealthy about being hairy, is that we always talk about body shaming and we say, no, obesity is dangerous. But as far as I know, being hairy, not dangerous.
Mate, it's very bad for candle wax.
I really don't want to know how you know that.
I just heard.
Unbelievable. OK, well, that is a horrible
image
to end part one on, but we're going to end it nevertheless. But coming up in part two, we've got America on the brink and some good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. Well, don't go anywhere.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
King Charles has launched his own aftershave, costing, wait for it, an eye-watering 135 quid for a 100 millilitre bottle, promising buyers that they can smell just like the gardens of his Highgrove country pile. Now, this is something that Meghan Markle would do, surely not the King. Is this a case of King Charles selling out, watering down the brand, just like Meghan. Well, join me now to discuss this is the royal broadcaster, Helena Chard. Helena, welcome to the show.
Martin,
often on the
hi.
show, we've had a pop at Meghan Markle, the Sussexers, for selling out, for flogging strawberry jam, and now the King is flogging Pong. Is this really the right royal thing to do?
Do you know what? So the joy of luxury Highgrove splash, you know, at the end of the day, Highgrove is such a special place, and the Highgrove shop sells amazing things on there. And as we know, the profit actually goes towards charity. So it's the King's Foundation, which was formed in 1986. Profits go towards educational and training, and it's all to do with this sort of sustainable world. But not to forget as well the charitable aspect and the whole ethos of the King's Foundation, and that's so important. This is not just something that's going up on the website and just being sold purely to go into someone's pocket. So I think, you know, all in all, I think everyone should have a look at the Highgrove website and see what's on for sale. I mean, there are lots of really lovely, I think, pretty fairly priced products, and even more so, go and see the gardens. You know, as we know, King Charles is a keen environmentalist, and the gardens are fabulous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m, followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain, followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. I'm still joined by adult human female Cressida Wetton and women's Olympic boxing hopeful Josh Howie. Will you go the distance, Josh?
Thank you.
I think you will. Anyway, we're going to kick off with Friday's Telegraph. A woman has been arrested for spreading false information. Have you been trying to sell your magic crystals again, Cressida?
Brilliant. Woman arrested for spreading false information about Southport attacker. There's no crystals in this story. So a 55-year-old woman's been arrested after allegedly spreading false information. So when the Stockport stabbings happened,
yes,
fairly quickly, some false information appeared on the internet.
Quite a lot.
Yes.
And it was spread by a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah. It went viral. Can you say that about a piece of misinformation?
You can,
I suppose
yes,
you can.
yeah.
So it was claimed that he was a Muslim illegal asylum seeker.
Yes.
On the MI6 watch
yes,
list.
and none of this was true. And, you know, I'd even seen this sort of stuff just casually browse, not even looking for it, just online. Where does that end? Because there's going to be, for a start, there's going to be thousands of people who spread this. The Guardian has spread false information before. The BBC. Didn't the BBC do something about a hospital in Israel that was completely false? Although you could say, well, that wasn't deliberate. I would say that the Guardian article about the Wee Spa example was deliberate misinformation. They must have known that that was not true. Yeah. So who do we not arrest? Do journalists get a free pass to lie?
It's a very...
that's a great question, isn't it? Who's the person watching the watcher and all of that?
Well, it's a slippery slope. It's intent. There's this idea of incitement to hatred. So in what context to put out, of course, because there are some people who probably retweeted it saying, this isn't true. But their content is still the same. So, but then you have someone like Hope Not Hate, where they tweeted about a acid attack against a Muslim woman,
which was
was false. Now you could argue that would incite hatred.
But he said he didn't know that was false.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but whether this person knows that it's false
either. Surely.
But also, you know, but there's a danger here because even if you do know something is false, you're going to be arresting an awful lot of people. I mean, the great thing about Elon Musk's community notes is precisely this.
Absolutely.
When someone puts something out false, it gets checked, it gets fact-checked. And I don't mean BBC Verify fact-check, I mean proper fact-check.
Yeah,
right, exactly. The more of this stuff we cover, the more I think you're right, and it's all about free speech. Have absolutely free speech and let everybody bring their version of reality.
Because the truth does come out. This is the thing, and the people who are caught lying are shamed, and and rightly so. And I think it's despicable if anyone would put out completely false information about such a serious crime like this. Those people are scum as far as I can see. But once you start arresting them, I worry about the precedent that sets in terms of free speech. I really do.
No, sure. But then the argument, of course, goes that this deliberate misinformation could be something that had led to violence.
No, but again, the people responsible for violence are the people committing violence. It's a very, in America, they've got the Brandenburg test, which is about incitement to violence, where they say that in order to meet that threshold, it has to be direct, imminent threat, insofar as a demagogue in front of a crowd pointing at someone saying, everyone now kill him. That would be basically the threshold. Someone sort of tweeting out, oh, I wish they'd go out and kill someone. That doesn't count as incitement
and there
to
wasn't,
violence.
as far as I know, there wasn't any, they weren't imploring them to do anything. They were saying, this is what I think, this is who I think did this.
Right, OK. But I think there's a broader principle here, which is that we just have to defend free speech and means the right to be wrong.
Well, my brain sort of, when you mentioned Brandenburg cake, then I started thinking about
Battenberg.
Battenberg, yeah.
There's no Battenberg involved in this.
I didn't take in anything you said after that point. If you could both repeat everything, that would be great.
I mean, it is a delicious cake, I will give you that.
So delicious!
It's one of the best. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I love to go to bingo and then go to some riots and then go and eat some Battenberg.
Okay, well, that's Josh's weekend sorted out. We're going to move on now to The Guardian on Friday. This is the Manchester Airport incident. Another twist. What's going on, Cressida?
So, second police officer under investigation after Manchester Airport incident. It's a second. This is the incident that happened on the 23rd of July. Initially, we just had a very short clip of a police officer stamping on and kicking in the face somebody on the floor.
Yes, which is abhorrent as far as I can see.
Absolutely.
But there was also context we didn't know about.
Well, there was. So within the next few days, we got some more footage about what had happened just before that. And the police officers had been attacked. It was pretty brutal. We know that one of the female officers had a broken nose. I think that's right.
Have they been arrested yet, the people who...
Well, they have. So there's two things going on at once here. So Greater Manchester Police are also investigating the people that hurt the police in the first place.
Right.
They
should clearly be prosecuted.
I don't know if they have been arrested, have they? They're out and about. The two brothers. There was a press conference the other day with their lawyer. So I don't know if they actually.
In parallel, Greater Manchester Police is investigating.
But that's not the same as being arrested.
I mean, it strikes me as absolutely astonishing, and also given the current anxieties about two-tier policing, you would think they would be pretty clear about nailing these people who committed such horrible acts of violence in an airport. You would think it would just happen automatically.
Yeah,
it would happen anyway.
So there was another video footage of two bystanders filming, and then being kind of maced, and they were like, no, and then but look, police are rocking up on the scene. They're seeing their colleagues on the floor, broken noses, people taking whatever. They're seeing people. They're making a split decision now. Whether that was the wrong decision, I guess that's what's now being investigated.
Right.
But it's a tough job being a police person, because I'll criticise them whichever way.
Well, I think you're making an important point. That is a really difficult thing to judge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really nice to you.
As a civilian who's never...
So patronising, Josh.
I mean, the closest I've come to violence is working with Lewis Schaefer. I've got no idea what that feels like.
Well, that's not even coming close to violence. That's outright violence. I saw you throw that kettle at his head.
And I
in
don't
the kitchen.
regret it.
He deserved it.
Anyway, very difficult job for the police.
It is. OK, well, let's move on now. This is this story about the... what's this? In the Daily Mail, the Labour councillor. You got this one, Josh?
Jewish worshippers beaten, alleged arson attack on a property and religious ornaments vandalised. Report reveals record levels of hatred towards British Jews as Hamas attacks drive up anti-Semitism. So, this is the Community Service Trust, which is a Jewish charity. They recorded nearly 2,000 anti-Jewish hate incidents in the last 6 months.
Yes.
That's not very good.
No, it's not very good, is it? And some would say it hasn't really been... taken seriously.
No, well, including assault. There was a pregnant woman who had a bag put over her head. There was a young boy who was nearly kidnapped, there was attempted kidnapping. There's a bloke in a supermarket running around with a knife in a kosher supermarket. So these are real...
What I find so extraordinary
impacts.
is we talk a lot about minorities, and if there's only... it's less than 300,000 Jews in the UK, right?
250,000, yeah.
There's not a lot of them, so they really, really are a minority.
About half of them are my family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, it is disturbing. I mean, this sort of stuff is, it has echoes of fascism. It's, why are people not more worried about this? Well, or maybe they are. I've missed it.
I'm surrounded by people who are, but I mean, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper's making noises towards this, but it just doesn't... all the examples you've just talked about, it doesn't feel the same, does it? It doesn't feel like it gets the same coverage.
No, it really doesn't.
No. And when you have Mayor Khan, he put out a tweet yesterday saying, call your coloured people, friends of colour, and call your Muslim friends to see how they all are.
Yes.
And you're like, well, mate, we've had 10 months of feeling it's scared and intimidated in our own city.
Is it to do with the fact that most of the media is pretty much ideologically captured by this, what we would call the woke ideology, and within the intersectional hierarchy of the woke, they believe that Jews are not oppressed. They put them in the oppressing class, right? And that this has actually filtered down to such an extent that really this might explain why we're not getting the necessary coverage for these kind of things. Is that part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't fit the narrative, this hierarchy. And the reality is that the amount of hate that we receive per capita, or whatever you want to call it, is off the scale. And the fact it's increased, and the fact that so much of it is in a sort of seemingly by people who would call themselves even anti-racist.
But I don't understand why people aren't more disturbed by this. I mean, the day after the October the 7th pogrom, you have people out cheering, but cheering, celebrating a pogrom. That is.
By the way, would have been a great time to arrest people and maybe televise it and make a big thing of it, so that we all know it's not on.
So I mean, that is just horrific.
Yeah, I agree.
And anyway, we could talk about this for a long time, but we won't. We're going to move on to this final story in this section. This is Trump, who has been left questioning his performance. Well, all blokes do that, don't they?
I didn't think Trump did. Trump upset by Kamala, I still can't say it, surge in US election polls. So suddenly she's getting some attention, she's doing really well. They've got £310 million of dollars in July, which is more than Trump's getting.
Yes.
So they're trying to make out here that he's really unnerved, he's a bit shaken, he's looking at his team. I don't think he is. I think what's happened is she's just the new girl on the block, and so she's getting a lot of coverage, probably a lot of time on the television and so on and so on. And I think it's temporary. And there's this guy, Jeff Lord, which is it sounds like a swear word, doesn't it? Jeff Lord, I love it. He says, don't
what swear
panic.
Words do you know?
I just think it's like a neighbour's swear word that used to have in soaps that you could use, and it's not a real...
Okay.
Oh, you cake taker. It's one of the... Anyway, he says this happens all the time, and he worked in the Reagan White House. And he says, calm down, it's just that she's new,
OK, well, I mean, look, she's got the weight of the media machine behind her, trying to amplify her as the next MLK, which is hilarious because she's such a mediocre politician. What do you make of this, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also amplified because, well, the juxtaposition is because it seemed like it was such a foregone conclusion after the assassination attempt against him. He just seemed to be riding so high that it just seemed like that was that.
Yeah.
Basically. So the fact that she has come back, the fact that in this poll she's got a 6-point lead, that's a big deal. Trump is always obsessed about the numbers of his crowd. And he's saying, he's right that he's saying, look, 1,000 people, she gets 1,000 people, and the media's like, oh, look at the huge things, but I get 100,000, they don't care. But the thing, Donald Trump, as I'd say, it's not about crowd size, it's about how you use it.
There we go. Well, that's it for part 2. But do join us after the break for social media crackdowns. And the government's fetish party is over, apparently. See you in a couple of minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The grey weather will linger across the south first thing tomorrow, but in general, it's looking much brighter as we head into Friday. That's because a cold front will clear through the country overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, introducing fresher air. But before then, we've still got the milder, humid air through the rest of this evening and overnight. So quite a close night to come. Persistent rain still continuing through this evening across northeastern areas, but that will linger across the south and east until Friday morning, making for a fairly grey start here tomorrow morning. Temperatures already in the high teens as well. Slightly fresher further north for much of Northern Ireland and Scotland, and here there will be plenty of sunshine, or more in the way of sunshine compared to today at least. Still a few showers though, potentially some heavier ones affecting the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow. They could push into parts of south of western Scotland as well, but it does look like it will remain largely dry across Northern Ireland, eastern areas of Scotland, the south southeast as well. Northeastern England not looking too bad, as well as Wales and the southwest. Plenty of sunshine first thing, and it's going to be turning much brighter across the southeast towards lunchtime as well, once that rain does clear away. So certainly a brighter day to come tomorrow, and it will feel fairly warm in the sunshine as well. However, across the far north, that's where we've got a bit of a breeze and this risk of showers through the day. So here, still that fresher feel, temperatures in the mid-teens, but further south, we're towards the mid-20s, so not feeling too bad, especially where the winds remain light. Another change on the way as we head into the weekend. Another band of rain arrives across parts of England and Wales, bringing outbreaks of rain showers continuing across Scotland. But it will brighten up for many areas into the afternoon, and again feeling fairly warm in the sunshine too. But it's Sunday and Monday when the temperatures really start to climb. Plenty of sunshine around through these days and temperatures towards the low 30s.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's newspapers. We're going to jump straight back in with Friday's Times now. Good news for fans of censorship.
Indeed, especially north of the border. Social media giants must curb lies that fuel disorder, says Swinney. He is the First Minister of Scotland. Yes. Scotland is a little town north of York.
It's up there, isn't it?
It's up there somewhere.
Yes. It's above Hadrian's Wall, I think.
Yes, Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah,
and but they've had no riots so far. There was talk of riots in Glasgow, but there has been no riots. So
yeah, but this is
great
Scotland, the SNP. I mean, they're very, very authoritarian, aren't they?
Well, do you think that's the reason why?
They must be up there rubbing their hands and licking their lips like we're going to get some soon. We're going to have a reason to get in.
So the article is not really about this social media element at all. It's more about how they've sort of gathered together community leaders, and this is how they're basically. I think they've just been lucky, to avoid all this stuff. But the one of the many things he talks about in this is how social media giants should, have some culpability.
How does he propose to do this?
Well, then, interestingly, he doesn't mention that, Andrew.
No, this is the point. Yeah. What it ultimately means is, please, can you censor everyone online?
Exactly.
And then we don't find out about what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the gangs that we saw of people with machetes and the like, we wouldn't have seen any of that.
Nope.
And we wouldn't have known that was happening if it weren't for X. I mean, I just think this is...
This has been going on for years, hasn't it? I mean, when we had the anti-lockdown stuff, that was downplayed on the mainstream media, and then people would post their clips and bits and pieces to X.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
And we really have to sort of question this narrative that when you have statements being made on social media, it automatically leads to action. There's no evidence for that. There really isn't. I mean, there have been 6 decades of study into media effects theory. We know that there is no correlation.
But of course, the politicians want to be able to point the finger at the supposedly easy answer.
Yes.
And as opposed to some of the harder questions, which...
is what are they doing wrong?
Yes, and what actions have they done wrong in the past? It was like when the politician was murdered 2 years ago, or whatever.
Yes.
Again, it was like social. It was all about social media.
That was incredible. That was Sir David Amess. When he was stabbed to death by an Islamic fundamentalist. What happened was, instead of saying how do we solve the problem of Islamic fundamentalism and radical Islam in the country, it became a discussion about how can we censor tweets, mean tweets. It had nothing to do with it. So what I'm saying is politicians seem to take every opportunity, particularly authoritarian politicians who seem to dominate the Labour Party. How do we take any opportunity to censor and control speech? And this will be another example.
I agree. But to push back on your point about it not having any relationship, presumably what social media does enable is for people to have conversations.
Yes, it does, yes.
And to get the information out in the first... So it's kind of a thin line, isn't it, between... You can see why they would argue that it's dangerous, but
Yes,
really what it means is people have access to information.
But they have agency as well.
Yeah,
you have to remember
I completely
this. And
agree.
People don't act in a hateful way unless that hateful element is already part of their character. If they're already predisposed to it, in other words.
100%.
They know this even about
yeah.
propaganda. Propaganda only works when the people it targets are predisposed to
Right.
act or think that way already.
But what it could do is inspire somebody like me to take an interest in a political cause and vote at the ballot, you know,
Fine.
vote the way they don't like.
No one's denying
So I
that.
think they're pointing at these few far-right people who've genuinely been violent and belong in prison, fair enough, and sort of conflating the two
Yes.
so that I can't, you know, see what's going on X.
Well, there's that. OK, we're going to move on now to the Telegraph. And this is Cressida. Civil servants being kept on a tight leash. Although no longer literally.
Civil servants cannot wear fetish gear to work, Minister confirms.
Outrageous!
Oppression.
It is oppression.
This is staff at the DWP. They've objected to the clothes of one of their colleagues. This is a trans woman called Saoirse Amathea Tweedle?
I'd say Tweedale.
Not their birth name.
Not... Well...
I'm willing to bet.
It's a very fancy name, isn't it? And
some very fancy clothes going on as well.
Saoirse likes an outfit.
Well, let's say fishnet tights, fetishy. I think there's a pentagram involved. All sorts of stuff.
It says here that at best it's evening wear, but
I think that's being generous. It depends where you go for the evening.
See, that's what women wear. That's what that's
women
what makes you a woman.
Revealing fishnets. It's just a womanly thing to do.
That's what real women, they love it.
Prerogative.
Big high
Is to wear that
heels
sort of
and
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Baroness Jenkin has asked two questions. She's asked about the policy on civil servants wearing fetish clothing in the workplace.
Yes.
But she's also asked whether bondage, domination, sadism and masochism, known as BDSM, is considered to be a protected characteristic under the Equality Act. And that question, thus far, has not been answered.
I mean, why is it that, you know, when it comes to these men who identify as women, they never dress as like a frumpy librarian, you know, that kind of thing with a sort of Angora roll neck, stuff like that. It's always like fishnets and sort of revealing tight leather PVCs. Do you remember the teacher in Canada who wore those massive prosthetic fake breasts?
I've still got those pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of astonishing. And, you know, and there was a big debate about should a teacher be able to wear big prosthetic breasts. I'm like, no, because you can't wear fetish. I used to be a teacher, right? They wouldn't let me wear fetish gear to school. I don't see why they should let him.
But you know what? This is a serious question that she asked, and a very clever question, asking about whether BDSM is a protected characteristic, because the argument goes that making fetishes into a protected characteristic has been sort of part of the end game all along. Because then the argument goes that, well, you're a paedophile and that's a protected characteristic. And that seems to be the fear that many people have been fighting gender ideology, and lots of people, you know, lots of the first people who started gender ideology have this connection to paedophilia.
So that's where you think it's going?
Well, this is what she's trying to sort of hold out for, because, you know, because the fact is that
you're not suggesting that this person is, you know...
No, but she is asking but the Baroness is asking a very interesting question, because the LGB part has nothing to do with the TQIA+++.
No, but people will never understand that very basic point, Josh. I've been banging on about that for years.
Anyway, but it is. But at the same time, look, it is good that it has been, you know, stated that this kind of outfit is not appropriate. And I just wish that HR had told me in the first week or so.
I wish they had, because I had to look at it.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
Anyway, we're going to move on now to the Express. And, Josh, this is the biggest gender-related controversy of the Olympics.
Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, BBC Olympics commentator corrected after misgendering non-binary athlete in a mask. So he said live, he's talking about Raven Saunders, who is a shot putter. Right. And she's kind of famous.
They.
No,
Thems.
She's.
It's them.
She's a lady. She's a woman. Wears this big mask thing. Now, she talks about it being a Hulk. Wait, is
that
Bruce
part of the
Banner.
uniform? Do you have to wear the mask?
No, but the whole point, she puts on
like
the Hulk.
her costume.
It's like then she becomes the Hulk by wearing the costume.
That sounds kind of fun.
That's kind of interesting. I refuse to call they, him, or they, them, or they, whatever. I don't believe in non-binary. I don't care.
Aren't they in the women's category?
Yeah, surprisingly.
So
shock horror.
She's a bird.
Fair mistake. Well,
yeah.
Isn't that fair enough?
Yes, she's a bird. What I find more confusing is that she's an Olympian. And I think, haven't you got... It's my own prejudice I'm confessing here. I think people that are into discipline and compliance and rules become Olympians, not people that say, I'm not prepared to observe gender.
But what's funny about this is also like the presenter correcting the other one. Like, it's them, it's they, them.
They are the...
That's ridiculous.
Sorry, I'm fresh out of Gold Stars, but if I had any, you'd get one.
But you know what that means? That means the BBC probably has a list of athletes with their gender identity ready to go. So she could be like, oh, you obviously didn't look at the document that says Raven is a they, them.
Which is exactly why I wouldn't be on the BBC, because I'd be correcting their grammar.
Indeed.
I'd be saying, come on.
I actually think
this
about
woman
it.
is not a plural.
Raven is... She's a big woman, and thinking about it, she could beat me up. So they, them, all the way.
Oh, there we go. Fear prevails.
Yes.
Anyway, we're moving on now to the Daily Mail for Friday, and they're discussing the new trend of underconsumption. What's that?
Gen Z, Aussie, mocked for underconsumption core, which involves re-wearing clothes, using bags for life, not upgrading your phone, and having a basic skincare regime.
What's a basic skincare regime? Soap?
Something like that, yeah. Yes, exactly. So this is an article. Apparently there's some influencers who are saying, oh, my God, guys, I've had this totes amaze idea.
Yeah.
Reuse your bags.
It's called being poor.
Yeah, and so they're sort of fetishising being normal, I think, and not spending loads of money. I mean, it's quite radical, because presumably a lot of influencers, their income must be linked to products that they push. These people aren't doing that. They're selling normalness.
OK.
Yeah, but also what is being normal? Because they're coming from a generation which had the disposable clothing and whatnot. So for them, of course, for us it seems normal wearing a top twice. But for them...
Josh, this woman has invented an idea where she creates meals based on what's already in the fridge.
OK.
Radical.
Yeah, it's crazy. but that's it. Because the generation before was just eating out all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is it. So for them, this is the real terms.
Apparently.
Good for them. I mean, it's saving money, isn't it? Well done.
Yes, OK. Well, look, we've just got one more section to go. It's going to be a corker, believe you me. We've got poisoned chess players, men in tiny Speedos, and the best marching powder this side of Bogota. See you in a moment.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Esther, can we talk about Andy Murray? Because Andy Murray has retired, which is great news. And in the papers today, his lovely wife, Kim, said, this is good, I'm glad he's retired, because he can do some childcare now and a bit of housework. But you know all about relationships. Yes. This is going to be an adjustment for them, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, as a father and a husband as well, Mark, that when you are at home, you are actually a big pain in the... Because you are kind of wired and you want to be doing stuff. And Andy Murray's like goal-driven. Can you imagine? He's going to be like, I'm going to make chili con carne. I'm going to make chili like this and this. And, you know, he's going to be like so focused and he's going to have so much energy. I would be terrified to live in the same house as Andy Murray. I know he kind of comes across as quite laid back, you know. He's a bit of a Sean Connery.
But actually, these people are driven, and that's not going to stop just because he's retired, right?
OK, when you've got a driven parent and the parent is at home, they're a nightmare. Yeah. So he needs to be seriously occupied. We've got to think of some hobbies.
Isn't it Kim's turn?
To have her career?
For her to be the most important person in the house.
I think she's quite into her art and painting and things like that.
So isn't it time for him to stay at home, you know, feed the kids and all that, empty the dishwasher, and let her career be the most important?
Although I doubt he'll do that. He'll have so much other stuff to do. Punditry. Maybe he'll join his mum. She has a tennis academy.
Actually, I remember there's a documentary about both of them have a hotel in Scotland. Actually, I think they co-run and I think they refurbished it. Yeah. To be fair, you know, Kim, you know, not just the hotel, but I'm sure she'll have other business ventures. You're right. I think it's the right thing to do. Clearly, you know, Andy Murray has had to be out the house. You know, probably she's had to look after the kids. I think anyone that's at the top of their game when they retire, I think the only fair thing to do is to, as you say, maybe take a step back and support your wife.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. It's your first look at Friday's newspapers. We're going to jump straight back in with Friday's Daily Star. Could cocaine be fueling the race riots? To be fair, I did hear someone chanting white powder quite aggressively. What's this, Wetton?
Dynamite cocaine could be fueling the race riots sweeping across the UK, expert says. I mean, it could. Look, I've worked in a lot of pubs with working class men.
Humble brag.
Part of
isn't cocaine more an upper middle class media?
No, it used to be, but you know, it's like, I mean, some of these people have got to get in a van at 5 a.m. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they'll do that.
From my experience of riots, which is not very much, people don't really need substances to get into.
Great point,
you know.
Andrew. Very good point. But this is arguing that the claim is that cocaine, once the society drug, your point, of choice, now holds some cachet in the burgeoning far-right movement.
Well, that's... Yeah, sorry.
Well, they're constantly...
I'm on coke, sorry. I'm very talky.
But all of this stuff, like talking about social media impact and now, you know, gas or whatever they want to call it.
It's everything.
Like, all of this stuff is always trying not to blame people for their own actions. If you commit violence, you should be blamed. Don't blame it on drugs. Don't blame it on Twitter.
Yeah, but you're blamed for taking drugs. But here's the thing. Number one, let's look at the evidence that coke is a far-right drug. Number one, it's white.
Yes.
OK. Number two, Hitler did it. I've recently read a couple of big books about Hitler. He was big into amphetamine. And then this article, really, this expert, I don't really want to go into his name because I don't want to be sued, but let's just say he knows suspiciously a lot about the effects of cocaine.
I don't think he does. I think he sounds like somebody gave him a can of cider at university and then he panicked and hasn't touched anything since.
I don't know. I think that he's also saying that if you smoke weed, that's like a left-wing thing. So lefties smoke weed
Do they?
and they're chill.
I can't keep up, I think. Just don't do drugs.
Drugs are bad.
We're going to move on to the Independent now. Labour MP. This is some offence archaeology going right on.
I love this story. OK, new Labour MP Lauren Edwards accused of racism over saying effing Estonians tweet. This is brilliant because I love this for a few reasons. Number one, it shows that Labour's come a long way because a few years ago, when Labour MPs when you'd uncover their tweets, it would be like, you know, Jews run the world and are responsible for all bad things and this and that and crazy anti-Semitism. If this is the best that they can come up with now, so saying
effing Estonians doesn't sound good, Josh.
No, it does. But then the reaction has been insane to be accused of racism. Estonians are not an ethnicity, to my mind, they're a nationality. I love Estonia.
Well, can we say it's xenophobic?
But even then, it could be just like, there's Estonians. But the idea is this MP has to apologise to all of Estonia.
Not
for
only that,
ridiculous...
there's another word that begins with R that's also not...
Well, that's not so great, but...
And she's been asked to get in touch with disability groups and Estonia and to educate herself on the benefits
do you know
of
what?
a diverse society.
This is complete offence archaeology, which is what they, you know... Should there be... I think Toby Young made the suggestion there should be a statute of limitations. So you can't actually have a go at someone for a tweet that's like over 10 years
I disagree with you. I think archaeology, whatever you're calling it, is a good thing. What the point of this article is that they've done some archaeology and they found like a 2p coin from 3 years ago.
Yeah, but Josh, you know, we've had things like... Who was that cricketer who got in trouble for something he tweeted as a teenager, like when he was 14?
Yeah, but the point was that he was arguing about how he was a victim of racism and he himself had been racist. So there was hypocrisy. And it wasn't when he was 14. It was more like when he was late...
No. I'm talking about Ollie Robertson.
That guy. I'm talking about the...
No, he said something when he was genuinely a teenager and he had to go through training.
What about age then?
You
Cut
can't
off
just
anything
have
for
it
18.
that when you agree it's OK and when you don't it isn't. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I think you should...
No, that's exactly the way I want it, Christina.
Josh, people can make mistakes, and by the way, I've seen some of your old tweets. Pretty outrageous.
Yeah, very bad.
I've seen some of your recent
but you know what? I had a lot of that archaeology stuff, and they went in, they found an old joke I did about Gaza Strip was a Brazilian that went wrong. And they were like, "How? Look at you here! Look at you! You wrote." And I was like, "It's just a rubbish joke I wrote 10 years ago."
It's a joke.
Yeah,
This is the danger. OK, we're going to move on to the Daily Mail now. And EasyJet, what's this about, Josh? I like a good EasyJet story.
Yeah, fancy spreading your wings. I don't know why I did it in that accent, I apologise. EasyJet planning to hire, I don't know,
You're gonna
I can't
carry on,
stop it
aren't
now,
you?
an army of over 50s to join its cabin crew. No, it's getting camp, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on.
for you.
Yeah, done too much.
What's the story, Josh?
The story is that EasyJet are hiring a bunch of old people, or older people, in their 50s.
That's not
Yeah,
old.
and they're appealing to over 50. They've doubled the amount of over 50s, they've quadrupled the over 60s, and what they don't say here is, I think, it's because they can't hire young people anymore. Because it's a bit of a tough job.
Yeah, it is. It's really tough.
Well, and you're not supposed to get involved with flying and oil, and even though half of Just Stop Oil are in their 50s.
You think there's the...
Well, I just think it's a bit of fun, the idea of Greta having to stand up to 60-year-old people rather than young people. They might have a bit more grit. I don't know.
We're going to move on to this one. This is the Telegraph, Cressida. This is a story about people stealing from their workplace, and I think we all do that. I've only ever taken a mug and that microwave. That's all I've taken. What about you?
Excellent.
I've seen you taking some stuff.
Do you know what I've got? I've got a very fancy Christmas decoration.
Have you? A bauble?
Yeah,
Oh, I got one of those.
Let's not boast about thieving.
Sorry.
Outrageous.
A lovely, sparkly bauble. The shocking statistic that reveals Britain is a nation of workplace cheats.
Outrageous.
Mostly, as you said, it's just pens here and there, relax. But it goes on to say that 18% of people have taken a pack or two of printer paper home. And when I read that, I wrote, no, next is too much. And the next sentence is 50% of people found the theft of the latter a serious matter. And I'm inclined to agree.
I think a pack of printer paper, that's proper theft. But I think it's like when you stay at a hotel, you can take the wee bottles of shampoo, but you can't take the bulbs out of the lamps. You know, you got to know where to draw the line, people. Very quickly, Josh,
I just want to say sorry to the person I used their butter in the fridge at GB News. I apologise. I'm sorry.
Josh, can you do this story in 30 seconds?
Yes,
This is
yes,
Metro. Chess, poison, go.
Chess player poisoned rival by smearing pieces of mercury before match. This is two women, but one woman, a Russian chess star, they take it very seriously. She put mercury all over the person's chess pieces.
Wow.
And that's how much she hates her, and she's probably going to prison, and it just shows that women can be psychos as well.
Well, it just shows chess players can be psychos. I always thought that about chess players, because it's all Machiavellianism. I've got to think ahead. You've got to be evil to be good at chess. I think that's right, don't you think?
Yeah,
Cressida?
probably. I think this is 5D chess now, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
totally.
really... I mean, how
Yeah, but
does
she got caught.
Yeah,
She
well...
got caught.
Checkmate.
Yeah, checkmate.
Hey.
There we go. Bit of sass from Josh at the end there. The show is nearly over. But let's take another quick look at Friday's front pages. So the Telegraph is leading with Sadiq Khan saying, I'm no longer safe as a Muslim. Daily Mail has got riot thugs jailed and shamed on TV as courts get tough. The Eye is leading with Reeves to order ministers to make major savings amid defence cuts. The Daily Express on Friday is going with Labour man held over call to cut rioters' throats. The Guardian has laws to stop fake news are not fit for purpose, says London Mayor. And the Daily Star is attempting to body shame hirsute men lying on the beach. Those are your front pages. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks ever so much to Cressida Wetton and Josh Howie. I'll be back here tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Leo Kearse and Jonathan Cogan. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then please stay tuned because now it's time for breakfast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The grey weather will linger across the south first thing tomorrow, but in general, it's looking much brighter as we head into Friday. That's because a cold front will clear through the country overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, introducing fresher air. But before then, we've still got the milder, humid air through the rest of this evening and overnight. So quite a close night to come. Persistent rain still continuing through this evening across northeastern areas, but that will linger across the south and east until Friday morning, making for a fairly grey start here tomorrow morning. Temperatures already in the high teens as well. Slightly fresher further north for much of Northern Ireland and Scotland, and here there will be plenty of sunshine, or more in the way of sunshine compared to today at least. Still a few showers though, potentially some heavier ones affecting the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow. They could push into parts of south of western Scotland as well, but it does look like it will remain largely dry across Northern Ireland, eastern areas of Scotland, the southeast as well. Northeastern England not looking too bad, as well as Wales and the southwest. Plenty of sunshine first thing, and it's going to be turning much brighter across the southeast towards lunchtime as well, once that rain does clear away. So certainly a brighter day to come tomorrow, and it will feel fairly warm in the sunshine as well.